Alright, this is John Kohler with OKRAW.com. Today we have another exciting episode for you, coming at you from my beautiful backyard garden here in April. Everything's in bloom and I got so much bok choy and mustard greens to harvest. My lettuce is like bolting, it's going off. Anyways, today we're going to answer your guys' questions. I apologize, over 1 million followers on all my different YouTube accounts. So if you have a question for me, I'll post a link down below. You can post it on my community tab. I have a special place there, and if you submit a question, it may get picked for next month's Q&A. So in any case, on with this month's questions. First question is from Holistic Hearts. Are you single? You seem like a great guy, someone who is into health and nutrition, down to earth, gardens and grows her own food, and can cook. Geez, what more could a girl ask for? My dream guy. All right, Holistic Hearts. Yes, I am currently single, and you know, my thing is this, like, I really want to have kids at this point in my life, so I need to find a partner who is able and willing to have kids. So, and who is also into health and nutrition, down to earth, gardens. Well, I'll teach her how to garden, but she has to be into that. I don't want to like force her into gardening, like, and you know, she has to be into like growing her own food and living on the land, maybe in the future. Yeah. And she'll be a kept woman. That's what I'll say. Okay. All right. So yeah, if you're interested, DM me through Instagram at Growing Your Greens. All right. But I don't get a lot of Instagram DMs for some reason. They go into some weird folder and I never see them. Interesting. Anyways, next question is from Be Grateful Farm 6933. What is the current opinion for purchasing a vacuum blender? They have been very hard to find. Is vacuum blending only important if you're going to store what you blend, or is it suggested for a smoothie you will drink immediately after blending? All right, Be Grateful Farm. So this is my opinion on the vacuum blending. I think vacuum blending should be done whether you're storing it or whether you drink it immediately. But especially more important, documented science shows that nutrition over time will degrade significantly faster if you don't vacuum blend, right? And then you store it. That being said, you should be vacuum blending and then vacuum storing for the least amount of oxygen to be mixed in, and also keep the oxygen out after storing. That being said, if you're making smoothies, I recommend making smoothies right at the time and drinking it immediately after. Even if you use a traditional blender, there's still nutrition in there, and of course on Brooke Goldner's protocol, as many people remind me, they get healing on using a standard Vitamix that is a traditional blender. What I'm going to say is that if you guys want to take it to the next level, right, and there is documented science out on this, I'll put a link down below to my video where I go over Dr. Brooke Goldner's healing protocol, where she is healing, according to published science case studies, people with autoimmune conditions. I go over in pretty good depth, so you'll understand why I believe vacuum blending could take it to the next level, get you more nutrients in your food. But I mean, even beyond just the nutrition in the food, it also is going to change the flavor to make it more stronger, which means you're getting more of those beneficial compounds. Also, it means you're going to be swallowing less air. That's very important. I know a lot of you guys and girls out there get gas and bloating after drinking smoothies. That's one of the biggest benefits I hear people say. Even if they're not into the nutrition, they're like, hey, I bloat and have less gas, less belching after I drink a smoothie. Because when you're blending in a traditional blender, you're airing up your smoothie. You're adding significant amounts of air, according to my friend Kailash, and I would say he's right. And of course, according to my friend Nate from Raw Food Romance and his partner Lissa, he says, once you go back, you don't go back, because once you taste the difference, you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe has been traditionally blending. But if you've never done vacuum blending before and you never experienced it, you're going to think, that can't be any better. And then you're not going to do it. You know, I leave it up to you. Yes, it's a one-time purchase. I mean, you guys expend money on expensive organic produce. Maybe grow some of it yourself, hopefully. Go to farmers markets, right? And you do this every week. You have to keep buying the produce. What if you could get 3 times more nutrition out of that same produce just by buying a one-time purchase of a vacuum blender? What I will also say about vacuum blending is that unfortunately it's not been adopted by the housewares industry, and actually all the standard major housewares companies have discontinued their vacuum blenders, so they're no longer available, which makes them even more difficult to find. I'm glad for companies like Tribest and Kuvings that make them available, as well as Void Systems, who make an attachment kit that can easily fit on a Blendtec or a kit for the Vitamix, so you can vacuum blend in your Vitamix or Blendtec. If you don't have one of those blenders, You know, and if you want a low budget one, I would recommend checking my Amazon shop. You could check out the New Wave Moxie, which I did use in a video with Kailash when we were at Ann Wigmore Institute. That's what they use in their commercial kitchen. The machine is NSF rated and does have a 5-year warranty, and it's the lowest price point for a vacuum blender. That being said, I did talk to New Wave directly, and they are discontinuing that model. They're only going to move forward with non-vacuum blenders in the future, although they will support the 5-year warranty. So get yours while you still can, while they are still available. All right, so next question is from Karen Butler 190. Hi, John. Would it be more beneficial to lacto-ferment my fresh juice before vacuum sealing? So, you know what? There's lots of studies on lactic acid fermentation of juices. You know, I mean, I look up studies on fresh juices, and I find a lot of studies on lactic acid fermented juices. So, you know, here's the thing I'm going to tell you guys. There's pros and cons to each method. What's best is to do both. You know, drink some juice fresh, make it fresh, drink it fresh. Hey, lactic acid ferment it. The challenge is if you lactic acid ferment it and then vacuum seal it, because it's lactic acid fermented, it's alive. It's going to bubble out and you're going to lose the vacuum. So you're going to reduce your storability because it's not going to be sealed under vacuum. That being said, fermentation has a whole other host of benefits, breaking down organic acids and doing all kinds of other things. So I would say, you know, honestly, do both. I like to drink my juices fresh, but there is benefit to lactic acid fermenting juices before vacuum sealing. That being said, I vacuum seal my fresh juices, and in the fridge, sometimes they will spontaneously lactic acid ferment. I don't go out of my way to add additional, you know, bacteria or anything to make it happen, but, you know, that could be another interesting thought to do as well. All right, next question is from Cranky Man X 8423. Do you grow your own microgreens and sprouts? And if so, can you please show us how and what is the best way to grow them safely and any tips? I've tried both and have had no luck. I'm terrified of growing sprouts as I'm concerned they may end up growing nasty bacteria and poisoning myself. All right, so honestly, I grow sprouts very rarely in a mason jar, like maybe once a month if that. I suck at, I'm not good at compliance with growing sprouts and microgreens. It is on one of my biggest things I would like to do, and hopefully I find a partner that is expert sprout and microgreens grower. I would love her then even more. I'm good at growing the outside stuff, and of course I have a lot of microgreens coming up in my garden right now. It's mostly the water pepper coming up that I just been harvesting little baby things as they come out, and I eat them, and it's hot and spicy. That being said, what I'm going to tell you is this. Growing sprouts is significantly easier than microgreens. There's a lot less investment, you know, and I would encourage you guys to buy the sprouting equipment and seeds from somebody that will hold your hand if you've never done it before. So I made a recent video with the Sprout Brothers, links down below to my last video where I interview one of the Sprouts brothers, Ari, on how he lived on nothing but sprouts, or almost nothing but sprouts, for 30 days. You know, they have kits to grow the sprouts, they have all the seeds, and here's the thing, if you guys are going to be sprouting especially, you make sure you get seeds from a reputable seller. Reputable sellers will test the seeds several different times for bacterial contamination. If you just get any old random seeds that says, oh, these seeds are for sprouting from some who knows where seller on Amazon, those seeds may not be proper for sprouting, and then you could get yourself in some real big trouble because the issue with sprouts is contamination. So if you start with clean seeds from a reputable company such as the Sprout Man, you could use OKRAW coupon code at sproutman.com for 15% off, I believe. You know, you're going to have a good result. And of course, they are there to support you. If you buy the sprouting kit and seeds from them and it's going, and it's not going, give them a call or write them an email, send them a picture. They'll be happy because they are the sprouting experts to tell you what's going right or what's going wrong. I think people are overly cautious these days, like, oh, it looks a little bit funny, I'm throwing the whole thing out. Man, if you're going to at least throw it out, at least throw it in your garden, because at least those sprouts could grow into vegetables outside. That being said, I'll also put a link down below to my preferred method for growing microgreens. I did a YouTube video on my Growing Your Greens gardening channel with Larry out there in Baltimore, Maryland. And, you know, that's the method I prefer for growing microgreens because he's got it dialed into a science. And he'll even, you know, you buy a kit from him, he'll throw in free training. You know, it's probably online now. And he'll take you, hold your hand step by step so that you could do it successfully. So that's why I really love Larry, you know, and the Sprout Brothers, because they will hold your hand so that you could be successful at doing it if you've never done before. That's super important, getting the support you need so that you follow through and are successful. All right, next question is from Aura Rugiri 4438. Hi, John. What do you think about teff and sorghum? And of the various pseudo-cereals, do you consume them? Thanks in advance. So I am a big fan of teff and sorghum. Let's see, I think I have some teff somewhere. I must have maybe ate it all. And then on the sorghum, I just bought sorghum. Like, do not underestimate the power of sorghum. Now, I do not recommend popping sorghum into popcorn because some sorghum can be popped. How I recommend the pseudo cereals or even the cereals. So like I do quinoa. I have 6 different kinds of organic millets. I have like einkorn flakes, sprouted oatmeal flakes. I have some of the sorghum. What else? I have some other ones too. Amaranth. So I basically combine a whole, and I also use the tartan buckwheat or Himalayan buckwheat. It's a flour, not the whole grain. So I add that to my Instant Pot, and I'll basically add it with coconut water, cook it in coconut water. I use about 16 ounces of coconut water to 1 cup of the mixed grains, and I'll cook it for about 3 to 4 minutes, and it cooks up really nice. I will divide that into 2 or 3 portion sizes, and then use that along with fresh fruit mixed in, or, you know, like I've been using bananas lately. During persimmon season, I was using jelly persimmons, which was the bomb. And then I add in prebiotic fiber powders, probiotics, as well as the kefir by the Kefir Lab, link down below to that video. It's basically like my raw oatmeal that I soak, link down below to that video, that you could make in 2 hours, but this is the cooked version. Some days I don't want to just like sprout the oatmeal. I want to have more of a variety of different pseudo grains. You know, once again, I'm really into diversity and diversifying your diet. So you could have more different nutrients and a diversity of nutrients and fibers into you. That being said, if I am eating sorghum, that has to be cooked separately because sorghum takes, I think, about 30 minutes to cook in the Instant Pot. And don't even ask me how to cook these things on a stove because I have no idea. All right, so next question is from Joe Culp 8514. I bought 2 cacao pods from the store and they feel not ripened yet. Do I wait for them to start ripen or not? All right. If you bought cacao pods from the store, number 1, congratulations, because they are very difficult and hard to find. Number 2, they are picked ripe and they don't really ripen up anymore. However, they will basically go bad on you if they're not open soon. So when you buy cacao pods, they should be hard as a rock. They don't get soft, and you basically break it open. You eat the inside fruit pith that is surrounding the seed, as well as the seed itself, which is known as the chocolate. That being said, you could also dry the husk and then grind it into a powder and then use that as a fiber powder, which is totally next level. And of course, if you guys want to get ripe cacao pods, link down below to my video where I visited Juan at the cacao farm, Jean Marie Chocolat, in Puerto Rico, where they will ship you fresh cacao pods so you know you're getting ripe ones. I negotiated that with them when I was there. I'm like, hey, Juan, I want you to ship the freshest quality U.S. grown cacao pods to my viewers that have never experienced it before. Now, you got to buy a whole box, but nonetheless, you know, you're going to have a lot of fun playing with it. You can make your own chocolate. You could dehydrate it. You could taste the fresh fruit, which is extremely rare. Of course, you could also get cacao pods from Miami Fruit in smaller quantities, but it's going to cost you a lot more money, all right? And I think Rain imports his cacao fruit, and I don't believe they're U.S. grown, unlike the ones from Puerto Rico. All right, next question is from 98 Jill F. Hi, John. What are your thoughts on Spirulina? What are your thoughts on Chlorophyll Supplements? Is one better over the other? All right, so I am a fan of Spirulina and Chlorella, which are both microalgae. And then you also ask about Chlorophyll Supplement. So Chlorophyll Supplement is using an extract of the chlorophyll from a chlorophyll source. You know, for a chlorophyll supplement, I use greens. Actually, I used a bunch of greens, including kale out of my garden today, cabbage, and celery, which is my green juice this week. So we should get chlorophyll from our plants. We shouldn't need to take a chlorophyll supplement. That being said, if you believe you need extra chlorophyll, I would still not recommend a chlorophyll supplement. I would recommend buying the Chlorella or Spirulina, which are, of course, high in chlorophyll. Or, you know, just eat more greens or drink green juice, right? And you want the deep green. So the deeper the green, the more the chlorophyll. So like dinosaur kale has more chlorophyll than, say, romaine lettuce, for example. And the other thing is, when you're buying spirulina and chlorella, it's very important to get an uncontaminated source and get it from a brand you trust. So guys, please do not just go to Amazon and buy any old chlorella or spirulina. You know, there's a lot of things being imported from China and non-reputable sellers and things, and you're just going to get yourself in trouble because they could have some contamination of bacterial toxins or heavy metal toxins, unfortunately. So the only one source of chlorella and spirulina I trust is the Watershed or Dr. Bob. I believe I have him linked. If you go to my Amazon shop, I recommend the Dr. Bob products that I believe are in my Amazon shop. If not, you could visit them at, just Google like Watershed Spirulina. I guess another source of the Watershed Spirulina and chlorella is through Matt Monarch, because he gets his chlorella and spirulina through Dr. Bob. If Matt is still selling it there over at the Raw Food World. So yes, I would recommend those sources of chlorella and spirulina. Next question is from Karen Butler 190. What are your top 2 or 3 recommended books on diet / juice / health? All right, so the first book, it's actually not about diet, but it's about food, and it's actually called Eating on the Wild Side. These books are all linked in my Amazon shop, so check my Amazon shop for all my book recommendations. Eating on the Wild Side talks about how food has been hybridized, right? Not necessarily a bad thing, but it's been hybridized for flavor, and they're hybridizing out the phytonutrients and nutrients that can significantly benefit our health. So this book goes into all the research on how choosing just a different apple, right, at the store, you can significantly increase your phytonutrient content. You know, by choosing different foods, I mean, the extreme example is by choosing berries instead of bananas, you've massively increased your phytonutrient, input or, nutrition that you will be getting in your food. So Eating on the Wild Side, very important book. That was so eye-opening to me. It really made me think differently about, when I purchase food, what specific varieties and why I'm buying certain things. Also, it encouraged me, to grow different kinds of foods. Like in that bed, you're seeing like red lettuce instead of the green lettuce. I mean, I have some green escarole, but I have lots of red lettuces, I think, otherwise in there. And then number 2, I would say Dr. Joel Fuhrman. Definitely recommend Dr. Joel Fuhrman. Eat for Life. He talks about eating a nutrient-dense diet that he has coined nutritarian. I think that's very important, of course. I listen also to people like Dr. Greger, although I do not agree with him on everything that he says. I think that he can cherry pick sometimes. That being said, overall, his research is pretty solid. So his new book, How Not to Age, is something that I have been listening to on the Audible. Of course, you could also get his book, How Not to Die. All right. And then as to juicing books, I don't really have a favorite juicing book at this time until I write my own, because I think juicing books, unfortunately, have not really been updated over the years. And I have my own opinions on this after selling juicers, being in the juicer world, and just seeing so much BS social media, YouTube bloggers saying, drink this juice for constipation, drink this juice for hair loss, drink this juice for this. And guys, it's all BS, man. These people just cilantro is good for heavy metal detox. So, hey, juice this for heavy metal detox. I'll have one bunch of cilantro, a huge pineapple, some apples, and it's just like a sweet bomb going off in your mouth. Yes, it has some cilantro, which is pretty good. When I juice cilantro with jicama and a little bit of apple and ginger, and I put a lot of freaking cilantro. I'll have my video up on my Growing Your Greens channel. You can see how much cilantro I use in my juice. It's a whole pound, man. One little bunch is like 3 ounces. So yeah, there's a bunch of crap on juicing that I'm not a fan of, so I won't really recommend any books. There's some old school books like Jay Cordich's book, but even then, there's things I would disagree with now based on what I know and all the science and research I've seen, and also me using the juicers to extract juice. Like today I made like 2.5 gallons of juice myself. All right, next question is from Louis Borsoto 7676. John, have you ever juiced or eaten nopal cactus paddles? During a recent visit to my local Asian store, I came across these cactus paddles. They raised some curiosity as I've never seen these except for prickly pear aloe vera. What are the health benefits of consuming nopal? Thanks. All right, Louis. So I grow nopal cactus. I've never tried to juice it because I'm like, this thing is so slimy, it's not going to juice well. However, I have harvested and eaten it fresh, raw, and also I've cooked it. actually, in the Instant Pot. I've steamed it. So, you know, what I'm going to say is this. Like, nopal cactus is amazing. Everybody should be eating it. I mean, Asian stores may have it. That being said, Mexican stores or Hispanic markets would be a much better source, because oftentimes they will harvest the petals when they're young and tender, and also shave off the outside thorns on them. Sometimes even pre-cut them for you. I would encourage you to not buy pre-cut produce. There's more chance of bacterial contamination there. I prefer you guys buy the whole produce. Or if you live somewhere where they grow wild, just go harvest them yourself. If you're harvesting them yourself to eat raw, you want to make sure you get the new emerging baby petals that are young and tender, usually emerging like in the springtime. If they get hard and thick, then they're really fibrous. You know, so like I harvested some old petals off my plants, and then I cut them up and Instant Potted them and figured, oh, fibers get broken down when I steam stuff like they do with my greens. Not so. They're still so hard and fibrous. So if you are getting old petals and want to cook them, I would recommend at least taking off the skin and then using the inside part and then chopping it up. And, you know, I would only recommend steaming it personally. Of course, it can also be eaten raw and juiced. That being said, it has a very gelatinous texture, probably due to some polysaccharides in there. And so it's not going to juice well. That being said, I just like took out a few plants because it was like I put some petals down in my garden. They just grew into plants, and I'm like, these don't really belong here, and they've been growing for like 2 years. So I pulled them up, and actually I got to replant the roots, but I did harvest the petals. So now, because I have so many, I'm going to juice them and see what the heck happens. If you do choose to juice them, I would probably use a slow juicer and then mix it with something really watery like oranges with the outside pith. I think that's going to be the best, because otherwise it's going to be a really gloopy juice. But, you know, as for its health benefits, you know, I've looked up this many times. I don't remember them all. But I would say basically it's going to help your intestines heal. You know, it's an additional polysaccharide. It'll feed your beneficial bacteria inside you. Also, it'll probably soothe your gut walls and do all these things. It could probably regulate your blood sugar, do the soluble fiber. It's an amazing food, and I think more people should eat it. All right. So hopefully I have a video on discount juicers soon juicing my paddles, because they're sitting over there in a bucket. Actually, I need to move them out of the sun. All right, next question is from a user QP5SD6TU4H. All right. Do you consider ginger as a medicine food like garlic, or can we consume it more regularly? Number 2, are pickled veggies healthy? Number 3, is all bottled water bad? I've heard it's possible to buy distilled, for example. Is there any water in marketplace that people can trust being far away from home? 4, at what stage did you feel the most powerful changes following your type of diet? All right, so we'll go over those one at a time. Number 1, do you consider ginger a medicine food like garlic? So like garlic, you know, I mean, on some levels I do consider it a medicine, but on other methods I consider it a food, so it depends how it's processed. If you're doing it raw, I would consider it more like a medicine. If you're cooking it, so like I'll pressure cook it, and I could eat a ton more garlic because it really cuts the bite. Or if I put it through my machine to make black garlic, I could literally eat it like candy, which actually I should probably eat some because it's quite delicious. If you don't have a black garlic maker, once again, if you guys want to buy one, link down below my Amazon shop. It's significantly cheaper to make it yourself than to buy pre-made black garlic that is usually imported from China, unfortunately. So like I would say that garlic could be a food or a medicine depending on how you're using it. Same thing with ginger, right? Depending on how you're using it. Like, I don't eat ginger every day, but I know there's people around the world that do eat ginger every day and use it like a food. Like, my mom loves pickled ginger or fermented ginger, and she could eat that every day. I mean, of course, it would be in small amounts, probably not large amounts, and there are different varieties of ginger. So I'm also growing galangal ginger, and I got some black ginger, actually from Baker Creek Heirloom Seeds, that I'm growing in my garden to see what happens with that. So yeah, so I would say that, you know, depending on how it's processed, maybe if you take the bang out of it, then maybe you're going to lose some of the nutrition, but then maybe you could eat it in higher quantities. So yeah, I mean, I'd still look at it more of a medicine than a food, because I probably wouldn't make a meal out of raw ginger at all. Another cool thing I did was I basically juiced ginger, and then I soaked it in freeze-dried apples and then refreeze-dried it. So those are like apple-impregnated ginger candy. Because my mom would get this ginger candy with sugar and crap. And I'm like, here, Mom, try these instead. And actually, they're even too strong for her because it's like a hit of ginger hardcore. All right, so are pickled veggies healthy? So I guess pickled veggies versus lactic acid fermented veggies. Usually pickled veggies are usually done in vinegar. So if there's vinegar in the ingredients, I'm not generally a fan of eating it, because along with vinegar usually comes other ingredients that I don't want to include. That being said, if the choice is pickled vegetables, right, hopefully organic, or a candy bar, right, pickled vegetables are still way healthier than a candy bar. That being said, I still encourage you guys to eat, raw fermented, vegetables like kimchi, like sauerkraut, that say raw on the package or that blow up when you open them up. A lot of Sprouts, farmers markets, even Whole Foods will sell pickles in the refrigerated case that, if you turn it over and it doesn't say vinegar, they've been lactic acid fermented. If they say raw and refrigerate after opening, those are good signs that they're actually raw and not pickled. And actually, that's what I would recommend for people to eat, or just simply make them yourself. Next question is, all bottled water bad? So I will say that all bottled water, there's very little standards on bottled water, unfortunately. If it's in plastic, I would say it's not the best. We want to try to avoid drinking things in plastic. And so I think bottled water, it's better to buy it in glass if you could find an option in glass. Maybe if you can't find glass, then at least maybe in a can. I know they have bottled waters in cans and like these reusable aluminum cans and stuff these days. I think the Flow brand of water. That being said, I'd encourage you guys to hydrate on fresh fruits and fresh vegetables. That being said, I would encourage you to, use point of use water filtration at your house. So generally tap water is pretty good, except for the things they add like, fluoride and chlorine, or worse, chloramine, and sometimes things they don't filter out, unfortunately, depending on where you live in the country. But I would say get a reverse osmosis or distilled water and try to pack your own water with you so you know how it was made, and then store it only in glass. Yeah, otherwise I'd try to find a good water, just in glass or in metal instead of plastic, as my general guidelines. All right, at what stage did you feel most powerful changes following your type of diet? So honestly, I felt the most changes when I first started my diet and I got rid of all the crap. Now I'm just seeing small incremental changes over time. Nothing super major or apparent these days because I'm already got it dialed in. I would say actually I have been feeling different since I've dialed in and including more vegetables, especially through heat processing. And so I've reduced my fruit. So that's probably the recent change that I've made. And I'm getting some of the best blood testing scores that I've ever seen, well, as of late, as someone who eats raw vegan. So that just shows me, well, for me personally, I'm not saying for you guys, that this is really working for me quite well, where I'm have my triglycerides better under control. My cholesterol's not out of whack now like it was, probably because of too much sugar, which then increased my triglycerides. And, of course, maybe you could handle your sugars better than I can due to whatever reason. That's what I'm going to say for me, that my recent changes has been doing pretty good. So next question is also from Oragani 4438. Hi, John. I've been following you for many years, and thank you for everything you share. I would like to know if you recommend using dried coconut flakes to replace fresh coconut to make walnut yogurt. What do you think about baking whole sweet potatoes? And then she also asked, what do you think about teff and sorghum? So I answered her teff and sorghum in a previous question. So the question is, do I recommend using dried coconut flakes to replace fresh coconut to make walnut yogurt? I do not. So, here's the thing, guys. I personally do not recommend using fresh coconut flakes. I personally had some issues with, including high saturated fat foods in my diet for me. So I would highly caution people to, minimize their coconut consumption. Of course, some people can handle saturated fats better than me. That being said, coconut, for being a plant food, is significantly higher in saturated fats than basically all other foods out there, except for maybe palm oil or something, which you shouldn't be doing palm oils or coconut oils, in my opinion, anyways. That being said, if you're just, if you're making it, if you're fermenting it, right, like live bacteria like things that are water rich. They don't like things that are dried. So I would say there's a lot more kind of like food for the bacteria in fresh, young coconut meat. If you guys can't get fresh, young coconut meat, maybe, a lot of Whole Foods and other health food stores sell, frozen coconut meat, which I would use before I use the dried coconut. Because that just makes a fat bomb, man. And there's so many coconut yogurts that you could buy that are just using basically like coconut cream to make it, which I just gag. I gag on that stuff. So if you're gonna buy coconut yogurt, don't want to make it yourself. I like the GT's brand. They still use the young coconut, that appears to be fresh, and not the stupid coconut cream that a lot of companies use. That being said, you know, if you can't find fresh coconut, or you don't want to use the frozen young coconut, man, just blend some cashews or something in there and use that instead. I mean, that's what I'd use. I'd use soaked and blended cashews before I use dried coconut personally. And then what do I think about baking whole sweet potatoes? Like, I personally don't do it. That's what I'm gonna tell you. I mean, I say, you know, I always teach you guys good, better, best. If you're gonna have some French fries from McDonald's, or the option are a whole baked sweet potato, I mean, I don't have to tell you guys that a whole baked sweet potato is way healthier than French fries from McDonald's. That being said, what I do is I buy the purple sweet potatoes, which are even more nutritious on some levels than the standard orange ones that do have a higher sugar content, because I'm not eating my purple potatoes for the sugar content. I'd just rather eat fruit. You know, but I basically take the purple sweet potatoes and then I steam them in the Instant Pot, which is how I like to eat them, which I had like 2 nights ago. Or no, actually last night. I had one last night. So I steamed 3 of them, and then I ate 1 fresh, and then 2 went into my fridge to basically kind of like cool it down to make it more resistant when I eat it cold, okay? So you could bake stuff if you want. You know, I'm not a big fan of using high temperatures to bake things because it creates additional carcinogens. But then maybe, again, you know, you're not as paranoid as me, and you're not trying to optimize as crazy as I am, and it's too hard to steam things and it takes too long or something. I don't know. I would say just buy an Instant Pot. It's the best cooking appliance in the world, in my opinion, because it uses water to heat things at the lowest temperature, you know, to minimize the toxin production and also break down the food so it is more available and you can eat a wider variety of foods. All right, next question from Benji4330. What is the cheapest, easiest way to make probiotic juice in the US? So, you know, here's the thing. There's many kinds of different probiotics you can make, but for the cheapest and easiest, you know, you could go down and buy some pasteurized juice. I'd recommend organic. You could get non-organic. Make sure it says 100% juice, and I try to get juice not from concentrate. Actually, I only buy juice not from concentrate, except in super rare instances when I'm traveling or something. But I only recommend, you know, the Lakewood or the Knutson brand organics. Many Sprouts and Whole Foods may sell this brand. And then you could buy a probiotic tablet called Ceramyces boulardii and just put 2 tablets in there, seal it up, and leave it on your counter for a day or 2, depending on the temperature inside your house. And you could have an instant probiotic drink. Link down below my video where I made this in a hotel room, because I believe it can be quite beneficial. Of course, there's other ways to make probiotic beverages, but this is the cheapest. I mean, you could use, I like to use high-end juices that have a lot of polyphenols, like cranberry, pomegranate, tart cherry, even the dark cherry. But you could use even something like, you know, apple juice or pear juice, which is half the price of the juices I use, you know, because basically the bacteria, or the yeast in this case, eat up the sugar. All right, next question is from Ali Morgan 4368. John, I think you're adorable. Have you ever grown mushrooms? Yes, I grew mushrooms once. I got this kit from Back to the Garden company, and it just basically sat in my house because I didn't use it properly, and then it basically just started growing without me. So I haphazardly grew mushrooms. I did try a few other times with different mushroom blocks, but I'm not good at, like, I need a partner that could do all these things and like read the directions and follow them to ADHD, and like I really love growing my outdoor garden. So I buy mushrooms regularly. I do cook mushrooms pretty much every time I use them in my Instant Pot to cook. Today, for example, I bought about a pound of maitake mushrooms and about a pound of enoki mushrooms, both grown in the USA. I think mushrooms are amazing, and I believe that I should have been eating them for, you know, the majority of my raw food career, and I didn't. So don't make my same mistake. If you do heat process food, heat process your mushrooms. Some mushrooms can be eaten raw, but that being said, I don't recommend it, and do your research, guys. Okay, last question from Eat a Potato. So, super stupid question. Just as a background on myself, I grew up very poor, and the only vegetable I ever can remember eating as a kid was canned corn. I'm vegan now and want to learn all there is to know. I'm struggling with artichokes. You have mentioned how nutritious they are, and I tried to cook one, but pretty much failed. I really never learned. Would you do a video on cooking and how to eat artichokes, please? All right, so maybe in the future I have a video on cooking artichokes, but it's not rocket science. Basically, I mean, how I used to cook it when I was a kid, basically my parents would boil the water and put the artichokes in there, and you gotta boil it for like a good amount of time. I don't even know how long you gotta boil it, because like I don't boil them. I mean, maybe, was it a half hour, an hour, like boiling it? I mean, they're really hard and tough, so they have to be boiled a lot. That being said, the easier way is just buy an Instant Pot, and I steam my artichokes. I suppose you could steam it without an Instant Pot, but of course it would also take longer. So in an Instant Pot, I basically cut off a little bit of the stem. I cut off about 3/4 of the flower itself, so the end of the flower that has all the little points that are jagged. Cut that off. I basically wash it, put it face down on the Instant Pot. I put a little bit of water in the Instant Pot with a little rack, so like elevate the artichokes above the water, and then I basically cook them for 30 to 35 minutes, depending on if the artichoke is old or not. If I'm getting the young artichokes that come in a 4-pack from Trader Joe's, those only need to be cooked maybe 10 to 15 minutes because they're like the baby ones and they cook way faster. And that's pretty much it. I mean, it's just super simple, so I'd say, you know, experiment some more. Invest in an Instant Pot. It's the best cooking appliance you'll ever buy. Link down below my Amazon shop where I recommend the specific Instant Pot models that I prefer that have multi-uses besides just steaming or cooking your food, you know, just in water. So like they could make yogurt and do all these other cool things. All right, so that's the end of this month's Q&A. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys did, please be sure to give this video a big thumbs up. More importantly, share this with other people that you believe it can help to educate them more about eating a nutrient-dense, whole food, plant-based diet focused around raw foods. Also, post your question in my community tab, you know, so that you may get answered in next month's Q&A. Also, be sure to click that subscribe button so you don't miss out on my new and upcoming episodes of coming every 5 to 7 days. You know when I show up or what you'll be learning on my YouTube channel. Make sure you click the little bell so you get notified as my new videos come out. And finally, be sure to check for past episodes. Past episodes are a wealth of knowledge. Over 800 episodes at this time on the channel dedicated to teach you guys all about eating a nutrient-dense, raw, fruit and vegetable-dominated diet. So with that, my name is John Kohler with OKRAW.com. We'll see you next time, and until then, remember, keep eating your fresh fruits and vegetables. They're always best.